65 yards. This time he fumbles the ball.
You must be out of your goddamn mind. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Victory Monday. Welcome to another episode of Ryno's Rants. Rolling out a new intro tonight, just playing around, trying to mix things up a little bit since I've used the last one for about a year and a half here. So just thought we would try something new out and see how it goes. Good evening, Josh. Good evening, everybody in the chat. Well, it was god-awful, ugly, but the Minnesota Vikings leave Jacksonville with a 12-7 win yesterday afternoon. It should not have been that close. We're going to go that way. Good evening, Nympha. The Vikings had 410 yards of total offense and held the ball for 42 minutes and only scored 12 points. The offense moved the ball up and down the field pretty much at will. Good evening, Doc. Watch Darnold get put on IR. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen right now. But once they got down inside the red zone, Sam Darnold just absolutely freaking self-destructed, forcing it to Justin Jefferson on 3 different occasions, all 3 of which coming back as called interceptions. The second one was not an interception, but be that as it may, sitting back there just watching that game yesterday, and to the title of the show tonight, do the Vikings have a Sam Darnold problem? It's starting to look like we might. Darnold, since the bye week especially, it seems like he is reverting back more and more to the Sam Darnold that we saw in New York and in Carolina, rather than good evening, Robert. Rather than the Sam Darnold we saw here the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. He was holding his wrist. Yeah, he hurt his wrist a little bit on that, trying to make a tackle on that last interception, I think it was. But I don't think it's anything that's going to put him on the IR. It's unless he broke something in there that we don't know about. I think it was his throwing hand, but it will bear watching, I guess, this week just to see what kind of comes up. But though I don't know what Darnold's doing when he's getting down there. He's just locking on every one of the. I think his ribs are hurting from the hit from the Lions. Yeah, that might be too, but getting too comfortable, go back. That's a very good point, Doc. It's entirely possible. But, if you're Darnold, I wouldn't think you'd want to get too comfortable knowing that you're only on a 1-year deal here and you are playing for your next contract someplace else. Jared, good evening. This is exactly right, Robert. He's trying to force it to Jefferson. If you look, I went back and I watched some of this stuff today again, just the replays. Every time Sam Darnold throws an interception, there is a wide open receiver elsewhere on the field, whether it's Jordan Addison, that one that got called a interception that actually wasn't. That one, if you look off to the side, before he throws that ball, Aaron Jones is flashing open in the flat off to the right. Drewster, good evening. But he telegraphs it and he radar locks onto Justin Jefferson. And every time he does that, it seems like it's getting intercepted. He should have had 4 interceptions yesterday, but that one got called back due to penalty. Good evening, GMAC. But I don't know what the Vikings need to do, it is what it is right now. We're stuck with Sam Darnold for this year. But, if the last 3 weeks are any indication, this should silence the some of the talk I was seeing on the social medias, Twitter X, and all this other stuff about potentially signing or re-signing Sam Darnold next year and making JJ McCarthy sit another year. This is showing that Sam Darnold, if Sam Darnold wants to come back as a backup next year to JJ McCarthy, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but we are not re-signing Sam Darnold to be the starter next year. This is JJ McCarthy's team. It's becoming blatantly obvious to that fact. I don't understand how he looked so good at the beginning of the year. Things haven't changed. This is the point I was just going to get into, Drew. Thank you for bringing it up. How the hell does he look so good the first 3.5 games, up until the second half of that Green Bay game? People were talking about him in the MVP category after 4 weeks. And now, if there was any other option on the roster right now that were better than Darnold probably would have got benched yesterday. But, you're going to bring Nick Mullins in. We saw Nick Mullins play last year, in extended time. And he was doing more stupid stuff than what Darnold's doing right now. His is more of that gunslinger. I'm just going to fling it in here and try to make a play work. Whereas I don't know what's going through Darnold's mind on this stuff, but when you have 400 plus yards of total offense and hold the ball for 42 minutes, you should not only score 12 points. 3 touchdowns off the board, at very least 3 field goals by throwing those interceptions in the red zone. Have so many options. Don't wish injuries on anyone, but for crying out loud, settle down, figure it out. Yeah, he's got to figure it out. Because I made, when Brunswick and I were talking about the predictions and stuff in the offseason and everything else, I made the comment that this is a wild card team, even if Sam Darnold starts the entire year. Unfortunately, we're starting to see that it probably is not a division round team, because if Darnold starts doing this kind of, or keeps doing this stuff, and we do make it into the playoffs, we're not going very far. So many options. Not sure why it's JJ or nothing. Yeah, I don't understand that either, Robert. It's just, I don't know if it's just he thinks Jefferson's his security blanket. No matter what he does, it's going to, Jefferson's going to get there. Now, the first one you could kind of excuse because it was it was kind of deflected during the catch off of Jefferson and went in there. But that second one should not have been thrown. The third one should not have been thrown. If JJ was fully healthy, do you think he would have been playing the past 2 games? That's a very good question, Doc. I know Brunswick and I were talking about this the other day, just off, between ourselves when we were going over some stuff. I think, especially after if he wasn't playing already after this game yesterday, I think McCarthy probably would be getting the start next week in Tennessee, assuming he was ready and everything else, all that kind of stuff. I always said Kirk needed was hypnosis. Darnold does too. Yeah, you might be right. Nick Mullins, the guy who throws 4 picks every time he plays. Yeah. That's what I was saying. You're going to get the same thing out of Mullins that you're going to get out of Darnold. Darnold typically has been pushing his bonehead plays a little bit further apart. Now, this past week, of course, he did not, but you guys have to excuse me a little bit. I got little bit of a cold coming on here and my voice is cracking, but kind of glad McCarthy's hurt, so we're going to avoid throwing him to the fire early. Blessing in disguise. Yeah, there's that, but I think McCarthy would have been ready by now. I honestly do. I mean, if McCarthy hadn't got hurt in that first preseason game, I think he would have pushed to start week 1. I do. Use all the options always, JJ. Poor placement on 2 of them. Yeah, that's the thing. If he leads Jefferson on that one that wasn't an interception that they called, if he leads it to him, that's a touchdown. He threw it behind him. It becomes an interception. You know, the first one that was deflected was kind of poor placement. The third one he absolutely should not have thrown. Kind of knew where it would end with Darnold. It wasn't Super Bowl win. Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the question yet, GMAC, but yeah, the odds are probably not. You know, it was that first 5 weeks, it just got everybody, you know, pulled the expectations up through the roof. You know, before the season, most pundits and everybody else were calling Minnesota a 6-win team. But, you know, and we're sitting now in week 10, we're sitting at 7-2. I think if you'd have said we were going to be 7-2 at the end of 10 weeks during the preseason and JJ McCarthy was not going to be playing, I think everybody on, you know, in the Vikings fan base would have taken that. So we do have to take some of this with a little bit of, you know, just take a step back. I know everything's fresh in your mind. Sam Darnold was putrid yesterday. You know, his QBR was 33.6, 24 of 38, 233 yards, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Darnold seeing more goals than Haley Joel Osment. Yeah, at this point in time. KOC gave Sam some love in the locker room talk. Yeah, I mean, some of that, you walk a fine line on something like that when you know, if the guy who obviously had a horseshit game, you know, and you're sitting there buttering him up in the locker room afterwards. I mean, the guys see through this. I mean, yeah, they won the game, so it's going to be excused and stuff like that. But, you know, if you start being patronizing to the point of, you know, praising somebody who just threw 3 interceptions, now, I guess it could have been worse. Could have been like Jared Goff last night and throw 5, but makes you appreciate Kirk's accuracy a little bit more, but not pining for that again. Yeah, and especially after the return of old Kirk yesterday when they playing New Orleans and they needed to get a first down at the end there and 4th down. Instead of throwing the ball past the sticks, he throws it short of the sticks, you know, very much shades of the wild card game versus the Giants a couple years ago. No chance of getting a first down and the game is over, but defense got some good momentum. Yeah, that touchdown drive, you know, when they went right down and scored right after the get-go, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But to the defense's credit, they turned it around and they shut the door for the rest of the, you know, for the rest of the game. The defense came up big. You know, they had 2 interceptions. Byron Murphy with a key interception. Of course, that one got ended. That drive after that ended in a Sam Darnold interception, but it stopped the Jaguars drive, and then Cam Bynum with the interception at the end that pretty much sealed it. You know, did get, what did we get? 3 sacks. Blake Cashman, great to see Cashman back yesterday. You know, he was sorely missed and he made his presence felt. I mean, you know, had that one that what looked like could have been a fumble return for a touchdown. Ended up Mac Jones was down and he was down. So that was a correct call. But he had that, 2 tackles for loss. Ivan Pace had a sack. And Van Ginkel also had a sack. Van Ginkel absolutely blew him up on that play. That was a nice play. And KOC's got to get tough. Should have pulled him for a drive. Something's got to get through to him. Yeah, but and this is to Drew, kind of to Drew's point earlier, talking about Nick Mullins. Do you get to where you're proving a point at the expense of bringing in Mullins for a drive or two, and you're trying to win the game? And does Nick Mullins give you a better chance to win than Sam Darnold? I don't think so. It's a kind of that whole fragile ego thing, I think, with the quarterback. And I mean, we know Darnold has had his share of struggles over the years and things like that. And I mean, in the heat of the moment, I had made the comment too about benching him for, there in the third quarter, fourth quarter, whatever it was. But look, after decompressing for a day and looking back at it, does that really fix anything? I don't know that it does. Does it make things worse? It's entirely possible it makes things worse. But we'll see what happens. We got another game coming up this week that they absolutely should dominate. But we should have dominated against the Jaguars. Now, if we come out and shit our pants like the Jaguars, or we did against the Jags, and God forbid lose to the Titans, then all bets may be off at that point in time. Dan, good evening. That's what it all boils down to. 7-2 is better than 6-3. And I'll take an ugly ass win any day of the week over a hard fought, well played loss. So, when it boils down to it, that is exactly all that matters, is whether or not you walked out with the dub at the end of the game. But it's concerning. I mean, winning covers a lot of warts. We've talked about that time and time again over the years. But so hopefully the coaching staff, can figure things out, whether it's, O'Connell and Phillips and McCown and all those guys have got to sit down and figure out how to get through to Darnold and how to see if they can get him back at least closer to what he was those first 3-4 weeks. Cashman was the key. Absolutely. I mean, the defense, having him back is a big plus. The touchdown drive Cashman was not on the field for that drive. Every other time he was out there, they did fine. I mean, he's not the magic elixir, but he sure as hell helps being out there. So, Riley, what pending free agents do I think have earned another contract with the team? First and foremost, Aaron Jones. I think you need to sign him back for, another. I'd sign him for a 2-year deal if we could possibly get him. I think he likes it here. I think he'd like to stay. So I think there's probably some room to work on that one. Other than that, I mean, the guys in the backfield, Stephon Gilmore, I don't know that I would definitely look at other options on Gilmore. Shaq Griffin, we didn't hear Shaq Griffin. We haven't heard Shaq Griffin's name in like 2 weeks, which realistically is not a bad thing. If you're not hearing a cornerback's name getting called, that means they're not throwing his way and he's doing his job. So Shaq Griffin, maybe. Up front, we need a defensive tackle. We need a right guard. We need a center. That's 3 of the big ones right there. The other guys, Pat Jones, I think is probably going to be allowed to look elsewhere, especially with all these young guys they've got sitting behind them. It's Cam Bynum is going to be a free agent that he needs to be a priority signing, in my opinion, especially with the potential of Harrison Smith being done after this year. Brian, good evening. Ugly win is better than no win, but entirely too sloppy. Absolutely. Cashman, Grenard, and Van Ginkel, all three of those were signed to multi-year deals, so we're good on them for right now. Darnold throws his second pick next week with Steve Mullins for at least a drive. Let's hope we don't get to that point. Let's hope Darnold can have successful craniorectal extraction surgery this week and get his head pulled out of his ass and get back to playing like he is capable of playing. We've seen him do it, but he's just got to stop short circuiting on these drives and look at other receivers other than Justin Jefferson. As good as Justin Jefferson is, and we all know how good Jefferson is. He's arguably the best non-quarterback in the NFL right now. But, even with all that, Jefferson only had 5 catches yesterday, 5 catches for 48 yards, targeted 9 times. And of course, 3 of those targets went for interceptions. But you look at now, one thing I will say that I did like yesterday is how much they were getting the tight ends involved. Hawkinson, 8 receptions, Josh Oliver, 4 receptions. And, if we can use those tight ends like that, that's all the better. You use Jefferson but you've got Jordan Addison, you've got Jalen Naylor, you've got all these other guys that you can use. Jefferson's not the only guy out on the field. Getting the run game going would help Darnold a lot, but the interior O-line might not be up to it. Yeah, I mean, there is that, but we ran for 169 yards yesterday. So the run game did its job. And the run blocking got, the offensive line is not bad at run blocking. It's just that especially that right side interior is ass at pass blocking. But Aaron Jones had 88 yards yesterday. Cam Akers, 38. Darnold had 28, and Ty Chandler even got in for a little bit, 18 yards. So, I was happy with how the running game was going. Aaron Jones averaged 5 yards a rush so that's really all you can ask for there. Loss sucks. Win of any kind is a good thing. Sucks we didn't drop a 50 burger like a lot of people predicted. We should have, we very easily could have dropped, we should have dropped 40 points on those guys yesterday. But, of those, how many drives we have that were 10, there was at least 4, if not 5, 10 play plus drives yesterday. And that helped lead to that 42-minute time of possession that we had. And if you're running ball control like that, and in the second half, they switched to more of that just because I think they were trying to keep the ball out of Darnold's hands, especially when we were getting down toward the end there and needed to salt the game away, which I think was a smart move. We did have that 1 3rd down and 1 play where we went to go try to get cute again and throw the damn ball, and ended up taking an 8-yard sack, which knocked us back out of field goal range. But speaking of field goals, so how about Parker Romo? Kid comes in off the street and nails 4 field goals yesterday. The one almost snuck outside the post, but great debut for him. We had a new long snapper, new kicker, and the special teams, the kicking game was on point yesterday. And we're going to need that for the next couple of weeks until Richard can come back. But if Romo can keep this up, that's great. Shaq Griffin been a ghost, which is a great thing for DB. Yeah, I agree, Riley. Look at bringing him back. Maybe for another 1 year, on another 1 year deal. Sure, I'd be fine with that. We need veteran presence on that secondary anyway. Now we do have free agent money, that we're going to be able to spend. Going to have to be looking at, a cornerback, a defensive tackle, hopefully a center. Reisner needs to play. I think he does too. And I don't know why they keep giving Ingram such a long leash because, and his run blocking is fine. It is. But when you get into the pass blocking, he struggles. Now, with Reisner, he's better at pass blocking than he is at run blocking, but I think you take that trade-off just to, keep the pressure off of Darnold. I mean, they only sacked Darnold once yesterday on that was on that third down, but so to Riley's, any chance Cam Robinson considers coming back, could slide inside? I don't think so. A guy that's making left tackle money is not going to, especially if he has a chance to go someplace and get a left tackle contract, which he will. He's not going to take less money to slide inside and play guard, I don't believe. Unless he just decides he absolutely loves it here and would be, more than happy to do so. Do you move him you move him from left tackle into right guard? I don't know. But I think the chances of that happening are pretty low, just for the simple fact that good left tackles in this league are a hot commodity, and he's going to find a left tackle guy someplace. GMAC, obvious now why Darnold never lived up to his draft position, doesn't see the field well enough. Yeah, and that's just it. Whoever the primary receiver is, which is normally Justin Jefferson, when he gets into some of those key situations, you just, and he telegraphs it, and we saw it last week and we saw it again this week. The defenders are jumping the routes, or he's not leading the receivers correctly, or, the timing is off. His accuracy's been off. I don't know why he's regressed, other than, maybe like, I forget who it was said earlier that he's starting to get a little bit comfortable and maybe he's falling back into the old habits again. Possibility, I guess, but playbook to open up on second and short. KOC is almost guaranteed to run it in the middle and 1st and 10 and 2nd and 3 or less. That doesn't upset me as much as a simple fact as that when we're 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, that he empties out the backfield and throws it. When you're in that short yardage, 1 yard or less, run the fucking ball. You can, there's more than one run play. It's just not, you don't have to run it right up the gut behind the center, but you got CJ Ham, put him in there as a lead blocker. Use the tools that you have to get that first down and keep the chains moving. Don't throw a 30-yard pass on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 just to, just because you're a pass first offense, but use progressions. You see, yeah. Well, that's the thing. He hasn't been making those progressions. Now, the first 3 weeks of the season, he was making those progressions. He was finding the open guys. They ran that layered play off to the right a couple of different times where you would have Jefferson clear him out underneath, and then you'd send Naylor bolting down the sidelines, and they scored 2 touchdowns off that. I haven't seen that play in like a month. So I don't know why they've gone away from some of that stuff, or if they're calling those and Darnold's just not reading it right, or what's going on, but it is concerning. G-Max got a question here. Didn't go watch, only highlights. Are there bailout options for Darnold on all pass plays? I think so. Typically you've always got, or you should have a safety valve going off someplace, whether it's the back coming out of the backfield or the tight end sitting in the flat, something like that. And, we've seen this on multiple games this year where Darnold is ignoring those short dump offs that could get you the first down and instead airs it out and throws it down deep, and it's either intercepted or off target. He's hit some of those too, to his credit. He has. But, it's as the season goes on, we're seeing fewer and fewer of those hits and more of the misses. So I don't know. Yeah, exactly, GMAC. It's either hit that guy downfield or nothing. like I said, you go back and watch when they show not the all 20, well, all 22 or widescreen view of the plays when Darnold has thrown those interceptions, there is always somebody else open. Every damn one of them. Like I said, that one yesterday, you had Aaron Jones flared out in the flat off to the right for about a 5-6 yard gain. He's had Jordan Addison open on multiple times. I mean, we had at the point, last week where Jordan Addison's dad is calling it out on social media, which, again, I don't agree that, they need to be doing that. We don't need that LaMelo Ball or whatever the hell the old man Ball's name is in the NBA that gets involved in all this stuff and drives everybody nuts. But deep shot on 4th and short seems like a league-wide epidemic. Bengals did it twice this week, went 0-2 on those downs. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. It's happening a lot. It's not just the Vikings, but we see it more because the Vikings keep doing it. But just because everybody across the league is doing it doesn't mean that if you're doing something other than that on 4th down. I don't know if I can't believe that the analytics would say that a low percentage pass deep down the field on 4th and 1 is the right call. There's so much of this, they take all these analytics into account and everything else, and it changes the thought process so much from, back in the day when we used, when I was a kid watching football back in the 80s and 90s. Now, yes, the NFL has evolved and has changed drastically since then, and it's all geared towards the offense and everything else. And yeah, the big plays down the field and stuff like that, that's the highlight reel stuff. And if they work, you look like a genius. But sometimes you just got to kind of take a little step back and say, okay, if we get this 3rd and 1 here and convert, we got another set of downs. We can run another 3 minutes off the clock if we work this right. But no, you throw that down the field and then you end up turning the ball over on downs, or you end up having to punt anyway. You just got to be smart about it. And like I said, you've got CJ Ham. Line CJ Ham up as a fullback and give him the short handoff. We've done that a couple times and it's worked. I mean, he scored a touchdown on it a few weeks ago. But I don't know. I mean, some of this is on KOC. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Some of it, a lot of this stuff is making it look worse than this has been on Darnold. And that is just what it is. We've seen it. We've seen the regression back to old Sam. We've gotten glimpses of the early season Darnold, like last week against the Colts, the second half, he was lights out, 3 touchdowns and all through for almost 300 yards. But then this week, it just, and between the 20s, he was on point. They were moving the ball. They were doing all the stuff that they needed to do. But when they got down in the red zone, then it just, I don't get it. But it's, excuse me. It's something that they got to correct. You got another winnable game, very winnable game this week against the Tennessee Titans. You have to win to keep pace with Detroit because, they pulled that one out of their ass last night on Sunday Night Football when they had no business winning that game. And Houston fell apart in the 4th quarter and gave up the ghost at the end there. Now, I know there was that one play that right before that missed 58-yard field goal that they tried there was a pass interference that should have been called that wasn't. Officiating across the league again yesterday was bad. We had some bad calls in the Vikings game. Of course, the interception that wasn't. That one other play, I think it was Josh Oliver that the guy grabbed onto his undershirt and was dragging about a yard or two behind, pulling the shirt, and they never called a pass interference on that. Apparently they can call the hands to the face or face mask penalty on a quarterback, though, because we had that bite us yesterday. I made the comment we're watching. Oh yeah, now they can call that play, but the 2 weeks prior, Sam Darnold just about got his head ripped off and nothing was called. But hey, Stephen, good evening. But yeah, I hope they can get this figured out, because we're sitting at 7-2 right now. We have a very good shot at the playoffs. I think right now, I believe we would be the number one wild card spot. So, and we got to keep pace with Detroit. They're gonna. They slipped up last night, but they were able to recover and come back and win that game. But I don't see Detroit going undefeated the rest of the way out. That Week 18 game that we have against them could loom large when we get there. And hopefully we're playing for something at that point in time. Yeah, Stephen, we've been talking about that at length. If you want to go back and catch that after a bit, yeah, we've gone through a lot on it. And we've been talking about what we have for options. We don't. We don't have much. Nick Mullins is not the answer. He's going to give you exactly the same stuff that Darnold does, maybe even more boneheaded stuff. Again, we saw Mullins will throw for a shit ton of yards, but he's also good for, the 3 interceptions Darnold threw. Yeah, that's a normal game for Mullins. As we saw that last year when he had to play significant time. So, it is what it is right now, short of Darnold completely falling apart, which, I'm hoping a bad game like yesterday doesn't completely shatter, any bit of confidence that he had built up earlier in the season. And, that's why, to the comment about talking him up in the locker room afterwards yesterday, you do that to, these guys are highly paid professional athletes. You shouldn't have to coddle them and, great, you'll get them next time. Here's a cookie kind of thing. But you got to handle different people different ways. We've seen a lot of players with very fragile egos. We had a guy here that, we paid $160 million that had a very fragile ego, and you had to know how to work it. Next game will be the key to see if this is a pattern. I hope it's not. But we're already starting to see the pattern. We saw it, the first half against the Colts last week. We've seen it. We saw it against the Rams. We saw it against Detroit. Darnold hasn't been the same since the bye week. But he wasn't very good against the Jets over in London either. It's kind of almost like that second half of the Green Bay game. The switch kind of got flipped, and he started reverting back to the old stuff. Answer is obviously Josh Dobbs. Yeah, Dobbs can stay in San Francisco. I like the guy. That he gave us a couple really cool weeks last year, but Dobbs doesn't fit in this system, and I'm fine just leaving him where that is. I know you're joking, but third and short, load up the box and run power eye or the wishbone. Sometimes you just got to go out and play big boy football. Now, are we built for that on the offensive line? No, not really, I guess, because, we've always had that zone blocking type players up there. Bradbury is a little undersized. Brandel is built for that. Brandel is a freaking house out there. Cam Robinson's pretty good sized dude. Brian O'Neill on the other side he's a big dude, but he's not overly heavy. I mean, he's mobile. And Ed Ingram is he's a freaking traffic cone. So, but there, you run it to your left side. And like I said, use CJ Ham if you need to. But yeah, I agree. You got to quit with this funky, cute shit on short yardage plays. Forcing it too much. Yeah. We talked about that too, Stephen. He locks onto him and doesn't even see the rest of the field. I said time and time again, there's at least one other receiver wide open someplace, which makes sense because you look over and you see 2 or 3 guys on Justin Jefferson. There's got to be a guy over someplace else that's either single covered or not covered at all because they've only got 11 guys out there. And they can't just, throw other people out there. So everybody on the defense, or on the running patterns is triple covered. But, it's a Sam Darnold problem. And the Vikings have got to figure out how best to mitigate that and how to try to fix it, for the next 8 weeks of the regular season and hopefully, multiple weeks into the playoffs. But, we're sitting at 7-2. We're in good shape, record-wise at least. We got a very winnable game coming up this week. And then, the following week we go to Chicago. Playing at Soldier Field has always been a little bit of a house of horrors in the past. Now, to O'Connell's credit, seems like we've kind of moved past that since he's been here. It used to be a terrible place to play when Zimmer was the head coach, and right now the wheels are falling off in Chicago. Matt Eberflus might not be the head coach by the time we play the Bears in 2 weeks. They didn't make a move yet this week, so it all depends on what happens to them next weekend. The question was broached today. Guessing one of the beat writers must have asked it, but asked the question on whether or not Caleb Williams is going to remain the starter. And he came back and said, Caleb is the unquestioned starter. We're not benching him, so on and so forth. The trick plays in the red zone. Yeah. Sometimes he just tries to get too cute, and it's frustrating and infuriates me when we do that. Now, on the flip side, if they work, he looks like a genius, but more often than not, they don't. And then we look like what the hell was that kind of thing. Hey, Reggie, good evening. Have to make teams play from putting multiple players on jet. Yeah, and that's just it. You make them pay by hitting Jordan Addison, hitting TJ Hawkinson, Jalen Naylor, whoever else you've got out in the pattern. If they're going to double and triple cover Jefferson, you start hitting those other receivers and make them pull that double off of Jefferson to go cover these other guys. And then you open Jefferson up for his stuff. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, but Darnold is getting vapor lock out there on the field, for lack of a better term. It's and then it's over here. I mean, that literally that play that he threw the interception in the end zone there, that again wasn't an interception, but Aaron Jones is literally running across the center of the field, going like this. He's wide freaking open, and Darnold is just sitting there, and didn't even look that way. If he'd have looked, he'd have had Jones for, he was at that point, he was like 5-6 yards down the field, but he'd had room to run. He'd have turned up. He'd have got a first down on that one, and we'd have kept the drive going. If we see that reverse again, I might yell at the TV. You might yell at the TV. I yelled at the TV on several occasions yesterday. I know my wife was sitting there laughing at me because, she still does not fully understand the intricacies of football and everything else. So she thinks it's just entertaining to watch me watch football. But it's the life of a Vikings fan. I mean, this is nothing new, unfortunately, for any of us. that have been a fan of this team for any length of time, we have those, the team gets our hopes way the hell up here, and then all of a sudden something gives us a gut punch and knocks us back down a little bit. But, through all this, again, when we talked about this earlier, we're sitting at 7-2 in week 10. Wife's like Sam Darnold. Yeah, she's not seen the whole field yet, I guess, but we're working on it. Positive is the amazing defense. The kicker, big props to Romo. Yep, we talked about him earlier too. The kid coming in off the street. They had a kicking competition last Tuesday. He beat everybody else out that was there. Never did hear who else they had brought in, but yeah, he came in and the kid did his job. 4 for 4 on field goals. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that, especially coming in cold off the street like that. So, but yeah, it is what it is. By the end of the day, all that matters is we got the win. Doesn't change. So well, there's that. I mean, if they get to the point where they start really enjoying the game, then they pick it up more. If it's just, you watch your football and I'll just do stuff on the other side, that which is fine too. But it all depends on the person. So I mean, she'd never seen a football game up until this year, so I got to give her a little break on that too. But love you, honey. I know that you're watching. But yeah, at the end of the day, we got a victory yesterday and moved on to 7-2, a spot where, the ceiling most people were giving them, was 7 wins for the entire season. We basically have half the season left. We got 8 games left, and we're sitting at 7-2. We're in a great position to make the playoffs, and once you get into the playoffs, then anything can happen at that point in time. David, good evening. Thank you for joining. Doc, don't know what the hell's going on yet. Sometimes, I mean, I like to think that I am a student of the game, but yeah, there's sometimes I start looking at some of this stuff and I have no clue either. So I feel you there, Doc. How do you think we'll do against the Falcons and Cardinals at home? That's a good question. Now, a couple of weeks ago, everybody was penciling that Cardinals game in as a W. The Cardinals are coming on strongly. I mean, they have played very good football last couple. Kyler Murray has played very good football the last couple of weeks. I mean, kind of expected him to start having his yearly tail off at this point in time because the new Call of Duty is out. But to Murray's credit, he's played well. I mean, they're leading that NFC West out there right now, and they deserve it. They're playing good football right now, so that's not going to be an easy game at all. The Atlanta game, it's going to be an interesting one. Cousins coming back. They've got their own warts down there too. They've lost, 2 straight at least down there. They're struggling a bit. Lost, yesterday in a game they had no business losing to the New Orleans Saints, who, the week before the game last week had fired their head coach and had a interim guy come in and wins his first game. And, that's the weirdness of the NFL. But, we talked about Kirk a little bit earlier. He reverted back to his, I'm going to throw it safe on 4th down to a play that has no business and very little chance to get a first down. But, it's better than throwing an interception at that point in time, apparently. So Cards game could be flexed. If they're going to flex it, it would have to be flexed this week, because I think you have to give 2 weeks notice. So, if it's going to be flexed, it would be done this week. Now, I don't remember what the options would be I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of those like Sunday night, I think it's Dallas, and the Monday night game, I don't remember who it was. I have a real hard time seeing the NFL flexing Dallas out of prime time, even with the dumpster fire that team has become over the last couple of weeks. And they looked god awful yesterday against Philadelphia. Cooper Rush couldn't get anything done. Trey Lance came in, didn't do any better. With no Dak Prescott for the rest of the year, Dallas is done. Stick a fork in them. But Jerry Jones would blow a gasket if you took him off of a primetime game, even if they're playing like garbage. So while it's possible, it could get flexed to a 3. I think that might be a more likely option. It would get flexed to a 3:25 game instead of a noon. But if it's going to, we'll find out this week. Hey, Skull for Life. Good evening. Long time no see. We know what Rattle's Cousins defense needs to play at a high level against him. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely does. Now, to Kirk's point, Kirk practiced against this defense last year every day. Now, granted, it's a different defense this year. We've got, a lot of different players in there. We don't have Hunter anymore. We've got Grenard, Van Ginkel, Turner, all those guys in there that are mixing up the rush a little bit. We've got, but the basic concepts he is familiar with. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can exploit any of that stuff. Or the biggest thing with Kirk is we're going to have to be, if we can get pressure on him, we know what happens. And if you can get to him, hit him a few times, knock him down, he's going to start with his little quick, short check down stuff. And you get him into that, and we're in good shape after that. Should hope we do well again. Yeah. Happy Monday after a win. Yep. They can only flex 2 games into the evening. I don't know what the rule is on that. I think there's a limit to how many times you can be flexed. Yeah, I believe that's the case. So they did do 1. So I would say that at least right now, I don't know that they would do it, because they may be looking forward towards the end of the season. They got that Detroit game coming up where that could be a potential flex, because that one is still sitting there with a TBD as far as time goes. They haven't set that one yet. So I don't know if that counts as a option for a flex, or if it's just they set that one that way already and you can still flex one more. I'm not sure how that works. But, I'm not worried about what's happening 2 or 3 weeks down the road, even right now. The only thing I'm worried about is going out and not looking like ass like we did against the Jaguars when we go to Tennessee to play the Titans, because the Titans are another team that we should absolutely go in there, take care of business, and wax the floor with them. Will Levis, that guy, against this defense, Will Levis should be befuddled and confused all day long. Or if it's Mason Rudolph, I know Levis was hurt. I don't remember if he was back this week or not. I didn't pay any attention to it. But Susan, good evening. Would you think ratings be high to watch Dallas get throttled in prime time? Yeah, and that's the thing. And Jerry knows that too, that even, if the team is ass, people are going to watch them get their asses handed to them. Anytime Dallas gets the crap kicked out of them, it's a good day. So, like I said, and them being America's team and all that stuff, I just don't see them flexing Dallas out of a primetime game. And I think if they did, Jerry Jones would be sitting in Roger Goodell's office the next morning when Roger got to work to have words. So, yeah, I don't think they do that. Jerry Jones has got too much influence to consider that. But anyway, though, that's about all I got for tonight. Anybody else have anything quick you want to hit? Throw it in the chat here. Otherwise, if not, we'll call it a night. We got some Monday Night Football going on tonight. So Jerry Jones is Vince McMahon, understands heels and faces. Yeah, I think you're right on that, Josh. And Jerry Jones is more than willing to play the heel. He's good with that. But but he's also an egotistical prick. So there's that too. But beyond that, I guess we'll see how things go this week. Darnold's hand, bears a little bit of keeping an eye on, just to see Wednesday when the first injury report comes out. See, if he's got an injury designation or if he's good to go or what the deal is there. But we just got to go out next Sunday, take care of business, stop turning the damn ball over, and we're going to be fine. I mean, we've shown that if we stop making stupid mistakes and self-inflicted wounds, this team can play with anybody. This team can beat anybody. And, this week we played down to the competition against a very poor Jacksonville team with a backup quarterback. We have another very poor team next week. So, go out there and play like you are one of the better teams in the NFL. Don't go out there and play like you are trying to match Tennessee suck for suck on the out there on the field. So go out there, do your job, score points, get the game. Let's go have a comfortable win. We haven't had one of those for a while. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Ryan. I'm not. I think I'm going to keep this a solo show for that. But anyway, with that, we're on hitting about an hour here. So I want to thank everybody for joining. As always, great conversations in the chat, great discussion, a lot of great points, and it's all valid. And do we have a Sam Darnold problem? Yeah, at the moment we have a Sam Darnold problem. So the key is going to be how we fix this problem, or how we are able to at least mitigate and minimize the bad parts and keep rolling on the, on this stretch here. We still got, the next two games are very winnable. And, after Chicago, we should be sitting here at 9-2. There's anything less than 9-2 is extremely disappointing and cause for an alarm. So with that, again, big shout out to everybody. Thank you very much for joining. I love talking football with you guys on a Monday. Shout out to the Filipino fan club. They were on here. I saw earlier watching halfway around the world. Shout out to my lovely wife who's watching upstairs as well. I'll be upstairs up in just a couple minutes. And with that, Friday night, 7:00, VU normal studio show this week. We're back at a normal time. Brunswick's work schedule's getting flattened back out a little bit. So Friday night, 7 p.m. Join us for the preview of the Tennessee Titans game. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great week. We will see you on Friday.